Thank you, Debbie. That's beautiful. Yeah, we can give her applause. We've got to try to keep this light. We're either going to be crying or laughing, or some of both. On behalf of all the family, we want to welcome everyone that is here in attendance for Barbara McClannahan's Celebration of Life service. I like the term celebration of life versus funeral. And the term really fits Barbara because she really did celebrate life. She lived it to its fullest as a very positive and loving person. Also, we want to welcome everyone that is live streaming on YouTube. I talked to my cousin Toby in Wisconsin this morning, and he wanted to say hi to everyone as well. To both Toby and I, Barbara was Auntie Barbara. She was the older sister to Toby's dad, Jack, and to my dad, Bob, that's here today. As far as aunts go, and I know you shouldn't use the term favorite, because we had a lot of great and fun aunts, but she was our favorite. Dawn's going to come up and join me. As a kid, Auntie Barbara's family was not rich at all, but they always had a roof over their head and food to eat. One day, though, she realized they were poor. As the story goes, she was ordering in front of the grocery store with some of her friends when her brothers, Jack and Bob, was riding their bikes into town. And the two of the grocery checkers said, "Oh no, here comes the Paulson boys. Their poor mom." I just had to throw my dad under the bus a little bit there. Auntie Barbara loved her family and friends, and she loved parties. And I remember lots of parties over the years. They were all amazing and fun with great food and dessert. Some of my favorite food at her house was her rice casserole with chicken on top. Absolute favorite. Her potato salad, which sometimes my mom made. And in the summers, Frank's salmon. Often freshly caught and barbecued at Auntie Barbara's or at Dan and Connie's Lake Taps house. I also remember churning ice cream by hand. Fun times. We all kept taking turns, and of course, as a kids, we wanted to see how fast we could go. If I had to sum up Auntie Barbara in one word, that word would be love. Shall we bow our heads for opening prayer? Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for Auntie Barbara. Thank you for everyone that had a part in her life. We ask you to bless each and every one of us. In Jesus' name, amen.
There are so many wonderful memories, so many stories I could tell about Nana. I could be up here all day, but these are just a few of the things that first came to me right after she passed. The first one is when I was talking with some of my friends and I let them know that she'd passed. They'd known her all throughout the years. And the first thing that came to their minds was all the glitter that she used to put in the letters that she would send everybody. And clearly, some of you remember this. Sometimes it was just a little sparkly X's and O's. Sometimes it was just a regular glitter, but there's always something in there. And you could tell. The letter would come and you'd shake it and you'd know. And it got everywhere. You knew it was in there. You knew it was coming. And no matter how careful you were, as soon as you opened it, it was just a glitter explosion. And you could vacuum 1,000 times. You could replace the carpet. You could tear down the building and put it back. and there would still be glitter for people to find. My friends would come over to my dorm, one of my apartments, and they would just say, "Oh, your grandma sent you another letter," because there'd be a pile of glitter around the couch or on the coffee table. But that was just how they knew her. From my college dorm room to the different apartment and houses that I've lived in, someone there today is still finding glitter. And I think Nana would love that, because she would know that they would say, "Wow, someone was here celebrating," and that's just what she was about. It was a simple thing, but she loved to do it, and every time I open a letter for the last 20 years and now for the rest of my life, I will think of Nana. Speaking of the simple things, I was always amazed at how Nana lived such a full and wonderful life. She never had a lot of money. She never had a lot of things. But if you asked her, she would say that she was the wealthiest person in the world. She had everything she could ever need. A big, loving family, so many good friends, people who would just come by and say hi for a visit. And that's what she cherished most. And her honest answer, if you asked her, would be that's all she would ever need. Sometimes she would get money for her birthday or for Christmas, and the first thing she'd do is turn around and give it to somebody else or buy other people's gifts. And when I'd ask her why, she'd say, "I have everything I need. But the one thing I can always do is bring a little bit of joy into somebody else's life by giving them something else." And in today's world that is so focused on material things, I think that's a wonderful lesson for all of us. To focus on family, what we have, and what's truly important in life. And finally, what I remember most about Nana, and Dean, you already started with this, is boy, did she love to celebrate. Everything in her life was a cause to celebrate. It could be a friend stopping by, a nice dinner out, even just a rainbow on a dreary Washington day. It was all cause for her to celebrate. And let's not forget her 1-month birthday celebrations. They just got longer. As Nana got older, they just got longer. I think maybe the last 10 years they were about a month. It starts sometime in April and ends sometime in May, and she just kind of went with it. Yes, birthday season. But it didn't have to be anything big. And I remember one time I called her and was just talking, and it's like, "Oh, I'm just sitting down, having a little celebration." I said, "For what?" She said, "No, it's Wednesday." So anything for a smile, and I think anything for a glass of wine on occasion. But yeah, for her, life was a celebration. It didn't matter what or why. It's just how she viewed things. And what a wonderful way to go through life. And if there's one thing I could say for certain about today, it's that Nana would want today to be a celebration. She'd understand the sadness and the emptiness that we feel, but more than anything, she'd want us to celebrate. A celebration of her life, a celebration of all the wonderful times that she had, a celebration of her time with her family, with her friends, and all the people in this world that were fortunate enough to know her, even for just the slightest moment. She brought such joy into this world, to all our lives, and that is something we should truly all celebrate. So, thank you.
Hi, Mom. You always loved a gathering, so that is what we are doing today on your 91st birthday. We are here to celebrate your sweet life. One of the funny memories I have is when I was 10 years old and you gave me an out-of-control perm on my hair. What a disaster, but it finally did grow out. Another is you buying the first pair of white high-top shoes for us, your grandkids, your great-granddaughters, your nieces and nephews, and your grandnephew. You wanted to make sure everyone learned to walk properly in the beginning. That was very important to you. You mentioned that you polished ours almost every night so they would stay nice and white. I love stopping by for coffee on the way to work some mornings. Also, I enjoyed having a glass of wine with you before dinner and just visiting. I love discussing the Seahawks games, the Sounders, the Masters Golf Tournament, the Oregon Ducks for my daughter-in-law Charlene, and Alabama, Jason's favorite team, the football games, either in person or on the phone as big plays happened, or not. You always loved taking friends to Jason's soccer games, clear through college, even in the rain, and how proud you were that Tony is a police officer and how he protects others. I want to thank my sister for stepping up and going to live with you the last 5 months. It was not always easy, but she did it with so much care and love. I want to thank Dan for always being there for you, keeping your yard and home in good condition. When you were in rehab after your fall, he went right over and fixed the deck after the tree fell on it. He also put bars in the bathroom and utility room to make sure it was safe for you to come home. Even after we were no longer married, he continued to take care of you, bringing treats over, fresh produce from Storino's, and so much more. You loved his visits so much, and bringing Cammie over. That little dog was very special to you. Dan was almost like another son, and your bond was very unique. I also want to thank my sweet niece, Brittany, who flew in at the last minute to help us with you in the last days. Jackie and I are not medical people, and it gave us great comfort having you there clear to the end. It was peaceful and loving. She will never really know how much it meant to me and helped my heart. Having cousin Dawn and Dan there also was very special to us. I know your goal was to be here in August to see your great-great-grandchild be born, but I told Jasmine I would give him all the kisses and love and hugs and tell him how special you were. I want to share some kind words that your friends and family said to me. You are a bright and shining star, friendly, happy, warm, helped so many people through hard times, had a great smile and shared it with others, had so much spunk, taught others to love unconditionally, full of life, adventure, lots of energy, love, was always up for anything, kindest person they knew. It makes me smile knowing I will see you again someday. Thank you for being my mom. I am a better person having been your daughter. Here's to you, Mom. Huggaroos.
So Skip has asked me to read his letter to his mom, and I'm happy to do so. I'm his wife, Danielle, for those that don't know me. And he started by saying, "My mother was most important to me. My mother was all the special warmth, love, attention, and affections this word embraces. There is something about my mother you all may not know. At a very young age of 17, she was married and had one child, my sister Connie. Then 10 months later, I came along, and almost 2 years to the day, my sister Jackie was born. At about 2 years old, I contracted the then dreaded disease, polio, which left me completely paralyzed for 6 months at the Tacoma Doctors Hospital. My precious young mother was only allowed to see me 1 hour per week. Imagine all of the anxiety, the fear, and the terror going on inside my mother's young heart not only for her young son's health and well-being, but nursing my sister Jackie and caring for my 3-year-old sister Connie. Would they catch this dreaded disease? This time in her life had to really test her motherly care. You do realize my mother was a mother when diapers, the real deal cloth diapers, not the disposable things, were the product of the day. She was a mom with a wringer washer and no clothes dryer. She was a mom when baby's milk was put in glass bottles, which had to be washed by hand, no dishwasher back then, with 2 infants to care for, a 10-month-old and a newborn. My mother was a mother in every respect and concept of its meaning. She was always being a mother to us, her children. Dawn and Marion Bartz, my Aunt Carol's brother and sister-in-law, informed me of a time when I was 5 years old. My mother gave me 5 smooth, skipping rocks for my birthday present to skip on the lake. She told Dawn and Marion she had no money to buy me a present. This was my mother's love, always providing for us to celebrate special events, even though we were poor growing up. It never dawned on me our lack of money because of my mother's loving attention. When I was 13, I was saving up to purchase a 3-speed bicycle. My parents surprised me with a brand new blue Raleigh 10-speed. I haven't a clue why they spent that money on me, except I was their son. How does a person put into words the special yet everyday loving things a mother does? From fixing school lunches, putting in little surprises, an added cookie or a piece of candy, washing your clothes, to hanging your sheets out to dry in the clothesline in the fresh, warm spring sun. What a joy it is to slide into bed with those fresh-smelling sheets, my mother's love. I look back on all of this constant little and big loving things my mother did for us growing up, swimming lessons at the Y, and a stop at the ice cream bar machine from time to time, piano lessons, trips to Mason Lake with the Schulers, or Ohop Lake, and birthday parties with homemade cake. My mom made the best cinnamon rolls with chocolate chips. Yes, cinnamon rolls with chocolate chips. My mother made the best meals. It's kind of like what Dean was saying. Meatloaf, chicken and rice, chicken noodle soup, potato soup, and oh, there is no better cooking than your mom's cooking. My mother was there when I had all the other childhood ills, the flu, the measles, chicken pox, when I had my tonsils out, when I would crash my bike, scratch up my knees and palms of my hands. Always my mother nursed me with her loving heart. One fall day, my dad of 36 years died of a massive heart attack just outside our front door on our lawn. It was a scary, frightening time. I was 15, my mother was 33, with 3 teenagers to raise on her own. My mother did what a mother does and needs to do, rolled up her heart, rolled up her sleeves, and went to work and to school to provide for us. 4523 Waller Road will not be the same without my mother. 922-5240. One will not hear her voice again. Who can put into words what mother means? My mother, Barbara McClannahan, was everything mother means. I love you, Mom. Edward George McClannahan, Jr., your only son, until Dan Palmer came along, who became your second son. What a blessing. At this time, in honor of my mother, we're handing out you an illustration from Calvin and Hobbes.
Don't mind if I don't step on the microphone? No. It's not really my style.
They need you for light stream.
Oh, no. Now I'm going to freeze up.
Stand back and use
Yeah. A little different take on Nana, on Barbara. I just want to make sure that we celebrate how much of a healer she was, what she did for the greater community all around us. So as a kid, living with Nana in summers, Christmas time, and then even as a young man going to college and high school, living there at her place, always getting the body work, the energy work that she did. She supported everybody with that work. You know, it wasn't pain, it was just whatever people donated. So as many people stated before, we didn't really have a lot there. It was always just catch as catch can. So it wasn't until later, as I went through a divorce, body work in a different light, chiropractic work from the Woo Clinic downtown, and getting therapy from Daphne Michaels, a very well-known guru in Tacoma. Somehow they all knew who Barbara McClannahan was. I mean, it was just amazing to hear these people that in the health industry just knew who Nana was. And even I addressed her as Nana, like, oh, Nana, who's that? And I was like, Barbara McClannahan, yeah, we all know who that is. And it just shocked me, like, just different avenues in life through, 46 years, almost living here in Tacoma, people knew who she was, like, all around us. That's probably because her house was always open. Living there, you could stay there whenever you needed to, whether it was, direct family, friends in the audience here, and others. I mean, it was always open. As a teenager, 13-year-old boy coming home, like I never knew who was going to be in the house. Like it was just so random, people just stopping by, whether it was 1 or 5 or a women's group or, I'd come home one night from work and there was a drum circle happening in the front lawn. Like, why? You never knew. Like you just never knew what was going to happen. But just, and you think about how transformative that is for a young man to have that kind of support in your life. At the time, it was super scary and frustrating. Like everybody knew who I was. And I knew nobody, right? Like I didn't know any of you at all, like whatsoever. I just came home and like all of a sudden strangers were in my house. And, but every single one of you knew who I was because she incessantly loved us and talked about us all the time. Jason, Tony, everybody knows who we are. We walk into a room, everybody's like, oh, it's Jason, oh, it's Tony, you're so-and-so's kid. It's like, I have no idea who you are. I'm sorry, like I'm gonna go run, I'll be over in the closet, like you just didn't know. So I just wanna make sure that as we celebrate this amazing person, just, I guess, check in with yourself and realize how many times she's touched your heart, touched your family's heart, your friend's heart, and just like really what she stood for. And you see it here in the stories that we will have today. So 2 lighthearted things after all the seriousness there. I guess we all have to give stories, right? So I'll start it off. There was a time, I was 17 or 18, probably 18. I was working at US Bank in Auburn. I worked there also in Walla Walla, so this is my at-home summer gig was in Auburn. And one morning, I think I told Jerry Lee the story just the other day, so she might get a kick out of this one. But, well, everybody's gonna get a kick out of this one, I guess, but. So I was on my way to work, and it was a nice sunny morning, maybe June, July, I don't remember, probably a birthday celebration continued into June. But I remember it was sunny. I remember I had to get to work. I was running a little bit behind. I walk outside her front door, and there's, like her grass is right there, and there's a picnic table right there. And there she is with one of her friends. I don't remember who the friend is, so I'm sorry if you're on YouTube or in the crowd, I'm sorry. But they were having margaritas at 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning on a weekday, right? I was going to the bank. It was a weekday, right? And she's, Shawners, that's my nickname. Shawners, come have margaritas with us. I'm like, I gotta go to work. And also I'm underage, and also I gotta go to work. But she's like, oh, you can just have one, it's fine, nobody's gonna know, like, we're having, How do you not celebrate that? Like, how do you not just go have a margarita at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's sunny, you have to go to the bank, like, it's fine. I'm not gonna share that one, I'll skip that one, go to another one. Something that, well, 2 things. One, well, I was told here. I learned how to cook from Nana. Sorry, Mom, I learned how to cook from Nana. I saw myself as a pretty good chef. It's creative for me. It's a release. It's fantastic. I think I'm a pretty good cook around the kitchen, old school. But because we never had anything, like when people would come over, she would do energy work, they might pay with a cabbage or a bag of potatoes, or they might drop a check off for $250, which again would pay for Jason's birthday present. So, I mean, it was just like we just had what we had when we had it. And that really develops, whatever was in the cupboard, whatever was in the fridge, we just made do. So if we had potatoes, we had potato soup. It's very simple, like cheap, fair, but like that's just what we grew up on, which is that easy stuff. Chicken, beef, a steak was like, oh my gosh, we hit the jackpot. And then the last thing I'll say before I leave the podium here is the mountain. So many of you know how much I love the mountains. I'm up there all the time. Just any day. When it was sunny, because we live here, she would just look at the mountain and be like, look at that mountain, Shawners. You'll never see it like that again. And again, as a young man, like 12, 13, 14, like that got super annoying. It's the mountain on its Rainier, it's here every day, right? Like, you take it for granted. She never once took it for granted. She never once took it for granted. It was always, hey, Shawners, go look at the mountain. It's different today. And that's the whole perspective of life. So, all right, whoever's next.
We skipped right past the eulogy. So, we're going to do it now. So, born Barbara Jean Holder, April 27, 1933, in Wenatchee, Washington. A highlight of her young life was that she rode an elephant at the circus when she was 4. She was the oldest of 4. She had 3 younger brothers, Jack, Robert, Uncle Bob, and Fred, who she loved dearly. Her family moved multiple times when she was young, but they ended up in Ording, where she went to school, and at age 16, she met and married Edward McClannahan. She proceeded to have Connie, Edward Jr., Skip, and Jackie in quick succession. They moved into the house most of you know on Waller Road in 1956. She lived in that house for 68 years, hosting parties and events and enjoying life to the fullest. Ed passed when she was 33, and that changed her life. Having 3 children, then ages 13, 15, and 16, she worked as a waitress in the evenings while going back to school to become a lab technician. But she didn't do that for long, as she found out she couldn't work in rooms with no windows because she couldn't enjoy the sun. So she went back to school to become a social worker. And this led to her position as a probation officer for juveniles, and finally to her position at the Tacoma Free Medical Clinic, where she made lifelong friends. And then later in life, she became a massage therapist and enjoyed that very much. She was involved with her children as they grew. She was part of the PTA at Waller Road School and was a Bluebird and campfire leader. She was also a member of the Waller Road Grange and the Tacoma Guild, where she was often an officer. She enjoyed people and opened her home to everyone. She loved hosting family dinners, playing games, visiting with family in the yard, hosting her Sunday group. And although the house is small, she always said there was enough room for anybody that wanted to come by. She loved the sun. She loved a good tan. She loved a good margarita. We're seeing a theme here. And she loved good seafood. And she really loved Hawaii because she could get all of it there. In fact, her last major trip was to Hawaii. And one of her great sadnesses in this last year was she wasn't able to travel to Mexico to lay in the sun at Dan and Don's home. She loved her family, her 3 brothers and their spouses, her many nieces and nephews and their children, her grandchildren, Tony, Jason, Sean, Brittany, Jaron, and her great-grandchildren, Jasmine, Gabrielle, and Mackenzie, and her grandchild of the heart, Matthew. Even with such a large family, she had a way of making everybody feel special. It's just one example of many. When her nephew Doug lost his eye at a young age, she stayed with him at the hospital until his parents could get back to him as soon as they could from Europe. He always talked about how scared he was, but how his Auntie Barbara never left him. He never forgot that, or her love and caring, and his Auntie Barbara always held a special place in his heart. All her grandchildren, nieces, and nephews could tell you something she did just for them. She was very good at taking each one individually and spending time with them. When asked why she just didn't take them all out to lunch all at once, she'd say, no, each one needs to feel special. She always made everyone feel special. She was simply full of love. We all know that she was unique in all that she did. In her final days, there was a great deal of discussion of where she wanted her ashes placed. For years, she always just said, just throw my ashes in the Sound where there's a great view of Mount Rainier. But her final decision wasn't so much about where she wanted to be placed, but how. She didn't care where she ended up, as long as her ashes were in her favorite perfume box, Chanel. So that we can do, and I think we have. A Chanel box it is. And I'll finish this in her special way. Love and hugs.
You know, Jason, I appreciate, was it Jason that said she didn't take anything for granted? And I love that about her. Because, yeah, when it's clear, we do see the mountain. But I never tire of the mountain. But she was one that I'm a better person because of her, and I think we can all say that. I was helping set up in the dining room, and picked up a little rock that reminded me of her. It says joy. That was Auntie Barbara. She brought joy wherever she was. She brought the party, didn't she? And did she know how to party? But, you know, and then you also mentioned something. She liked to make each one feel very special. And I'll never forget, and I don't know what birthday it was of mine. We lived up at Lake Tapps, and she knew I loved flowers just as she did. And there was a knock at the door, and I went. No one was out there, but there was a vase full of daffodils. And I didn't know who left it, but then she called me later, and she said, I wanted to bring a little joy in your life. So I hold a little of her joy that she shared with me. But I'll never forget that. She loved unconditionally, made each one of us feel very special. She loved the birds, and she loved the rainbows. And we were able to come up in January. I did visit with her, and she said, I'll see you on the other side of the rainbow. I think it was 3 years ago, she had called me up, and she's, Diana, I've got something to ask of you. It seems very odd, but I would like to ask you to sing a song for me at my memorial. I wanted a celebration, but I'd like you to sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow. Anyone that knew Auntie Barbara knew that was her. She never missed a rainbow. And I could just see her running outside to capture a rainbow. So this is to her, Annie Barbara. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I've heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that we dream of soon will come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow, then why? Tell me why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh why can't I? Hugs.
is a hopeless jumble, and the raindrops tumble all around. Heaven opens a magic lane. When all the clouds darken up the skyway, there's a rainbow highway to be found. Leading on your way. a place behind the sun, just a step beyond the line. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Oh, that's crazy. Oh, you gonna turn on the other one? Oh, look at the dance. Oh, they're dancing now. Dance. That's the dance. Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. Everybody dance. Snoopy. Oh, there's Snoopy. That's the dance.
At this time, the family would like to maybe hear from a few of you, some sharing a story or two, short stories, for the next 10, 15 minutes before we go to have some refreshments. I think we have a couple mics. Where are the mics? These two? Oh, was Lauren supposed to do something first from Sherry, wasn't he? Oh, he was supposed to start. I knew I messed up there. So Sherry, right down here, lived right within a block of those guys, right up the hill. Yeah, for how many years?
It's all part of the story.
Oh, okay, Lauren will fill it out. Fill it in.
I've been asked to read this for Sherry. Happy birthday, other mother. The heart knows only one language. That is the language of love. I love and miss you. I treasure our lifelong friendship. For 65 plus years, we had the luxury of sharing my best friend and your baby girl, Jacqueline Ray. Since I was old enough to spend the night or go on day trips to Ording or Ohop Lake, you have always been there. First, you shared your loving heart and family. Secondly, you shared your manners and respect for others. Sherry, we don't say shut up in this family. Lastly, your spontaneity and roll with the flow attitude. Everything always worked out. And if there was 1 square inch of space available, there was always room for one more. You had just a calm, cool vibe that was contagious. From kindergarten to adulthood, you guided, helped, and loved me like your own. You were always there. When I remember our history, there is so much. My mind flashes to 1,000,000 overnight stays, backyard leaf raking, delicious homemade ice cream churning, board games with the big kids, Connie and Skip, and Barbies for hours with Jacqueline. As my campfire leader, you always had to push me. Then it was junior high school. Connie off to the academy, me sleeping in her bed and experiencing my first electric blanket, heavenly. Then sadly, there was Ed's death. It was my first, and it was hard. You were so brave and composed. In retrospect, you probably were just numb, but you were always there. From there, we were thrown into semi-adulthood. Jacqueline off to academy, me off to new high school, graduations, college careers, and relocations. Jackie in Texas, me in Alaska. Every spring, your bouquet of daffodils would arrive and would always make me smile. Real adulthood, our marriages, kids, and some rough times. Physically separated, but always together in our hearts. Years later, I remember Jackie's and my granddaughters playing together at your house. They were giddy with glee, while dress up and Christmas package wrapping was the order of the day. The three of us sat there and marveled that there were 3 generations of friendship in front of us. I was so proud to be your other kid. You were always there. I recall you got me through a particularly tough time after my dad died. My sweet mom, who is here today, was grieving, selling her dream home and moving. I just couldn't bear to add to her burden. Your firsthand experience drew me to you for help and guidance, and you didn't let me down. You were always there. Now, as I say my final goodbye, I can feel your hugs and soft skin. I can hear your voice. I always enjoyed our time together, especially our frequent visits at the end. They always ended with the same whispered goodbye in my ear. Oh, Cher, I love you. Today I see your spirit in all of us here, but especially at the little house at the end of the road. The tiny home that you filled with love and where you spent 65 plus years protecting the land that you were sure had done the same for you and yours. You were always there. Goodbye, my dear sweet Barbara Mack. You will always be my other mother, and I will always be your other kid. I'll see you in the wind when we meet again because you are always there. I love you, Sherry.
Thank you, Sherry. I knew that would be tough for you, and thanks, Lauren, for doing that. Anybody have anything they'd like to say briefly? Bob?
Hello. What do you mean brief? I'm Bob. I'm Barb's brother. We had 3 boys and 1 girl. Barbara was the 1 girl. She was the oldest. My brother Jack was a year older than me, and then I came, and then my little brother Fred. The rest of them are all gone now. I'm the only one left. It's sad, but somebody said that's sad, and I said, yeah, but when you get up there 88 years old, it's getting time. I didn't know Sherry was going to read that. I appreciate it, Sherry. That was well done. I appreciate it. such a sweetheart you've been with the family all these years, and we do love you. I was going to tell a story about Sherry, and that's why I'm glad they told that first. Sherry, of course, was one of Jackie's very, very best friends. And they used to come to church. We had our church down on 7th, and they came to church, the three girls. My partner's daughter was Vicki Ditweiler. Sherry and Jackie came to church and would sit in a row. Sherry didn't have a clue what we did in our church or anything about it. But the two girls pointed at her and said, "Sherry, I hate to tell you, but you're sitting in the seat that has to announce the next song. And we're going to poke you when it's time to announce it. It's 1:45. Pretty soon both of them poked her, and she stood right up in church and said, "Our next song will be 1:45.
You know, one thing that you forgot to add on that, I was there, and she says first and last stanzas only.
I forgot about that. That's right.
True
Hey,
story.
Sherry, nice job. I had another story I was going to tell, but you know, Dan did such a good job, and that's how much my kids loved Annie Barbara. With all their heart, they loved Annie Barbara. And when Doug lost his eye, we were traveling in Europe, and I was in Sete, Spain. I'll never forget, Sete. Called home, and they said that Doug had had an accident. And so we made a trip. We quit the trip right then, and the car was clear. Had to get clear up to Amsterdam, so we drove up there, shipped it home, and flew home right away. And Doug had got a pipe stuck in his eye, and they knocked the lens out. But the doctor thought that they'd saved it. But when we got home, he was not being able to see again, and he lost that. But he told me. He said, "Dad, without Annie Barbara, I wouldn't have made anything." He said, "Annie Barbara was there every minute of the day for me." And he loved her dearly, so I wanted to share that, even though Dan had already told it, and he did it well. Thank you so much. We loved Annie Barbara. Thank you, each one, for coming. What a nice group of people here today. Annie Barbara loved you all. Thank you. Sorry, Sherry.
Uncle Bob, you've told that story so many times.
Do you want to say love you? Love you. No. Okay. When I was pregnant with this one, Annie Barbara thought it was pretty amazing to have some new life energy. So when you're pregnant, sometimes people like to touch your belly. And in the grocery store, that's really annoying. But when it's your great aunt, it can be kind of funny. But she used to come over and put her face like right by my belly button with her hands on either side of me. Hello in there. Anyway, about the third time this happened, I got a kick out of it. It was hilarious. She goes, "I wonder if they can't hear me that well." Went down a little lower and looked up. I'm like, okay. Kicking it back about 15 years prior to that, I had brought a high school boyfriend, not Mark. Mark's the one that stayed. But the high school boyfriend,
he's a good one.
She met him, and as I was introducing him, she took his hand and thought she was going to shake it and give like her lovely welcome. And she looked at his hand for a second. She goes, "Oh, honey, I don't need to learn your name. You're not going to last long." And moved on and went and talked to other family members. So I love me a straight shooter. I love that about her. Another thing that a lot of people talked about was how she took each of us out to lunch individually, and that was awesome. The first time I'd ever had creme brulee was with her, and I remember being like, "Annie Barbara, this is so good." And she was like, "Let's order another one." So we ordered another one, and we ate that. We ordered another one. We, by the end of the night, had ordered 4 creme brulees, and one of them went home with her in her purse with the glass ramekin. So.
I forgot about that story. Shelby, my other daughter.
I'm not going to stand up because I'm nervous.
You have to be online. There, you got to be on YouTube.
There's people that you meet in your lives that you just know are so special, and people who can just look into your eyes and they see your heart. And she was one of those people. And I think when I turned 16, she took me out to our dinner, our special dinner, and she grabbed my hand and she stuck this heart-shaped stone in my hand, but she closed it. I couldn't even see it. And she held it in my hand. She goes, "This isn't your color forever." It was the color of the stone that was representative of who I am as a person. And it did have glitter in it. She said, "That will stay." It was a deep kind of maroon red. And she said, "It's the right tone, but it's not the right color. And you're going to have a big moment in your life where your life's going to change and you're going to have to go through something really hard." I'm 16. I'm like, "Girl, what?" And got married in my 20s, got a divorce. It was not a fun time in my life. And within like a month after that, she found me and gave me a new stone, a new heart-shaped stone. And she just laid in my hand. She goes, "This is your color." And it was this beautiful dark blue, deep sky blue with glitter in it still. And it just made such a big impact for me. And that's just who she was. She could just see you for who you are. And she made you feel so special. And I still feel that today.
I got 3 so far. How are you doing with that, Jason?
Anybody else? You don't have to. We can share later too. So we'll all be together shortly in the other room having refreshments. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm one of her Reiki sisters. And Barbara, to all of us, and so many of us are here today, she was a mentor to me. What I love so much about Barbara, like everyone else said, is she saw the joy in life. And she was love, and she taught. She was a great teacher, but she taught from touching and from just being present and teaching us what she knows. And Reiki's all about touch and everything and energy. And oh my gosh, when we were in that little house of hers, the energy flowed, and it flowed outside and in the trees and all over, and we all felt it. And I'm going to miss her so much, and she played such an enormous part in all of our lives, and I am who I am today because of her. And she and I, when I'd go over there and when she'd come over, we got in the habit where we would touch our foreheads together and look blue eye to blue eye, and she'd say, "I see you." And I saw her too. And that is what I will remember and carry on. So thank you. I just love it.
Jackie wants to say something?
I didn't have anything written because I wasn't going to say anything, but I just want to, once Sean said, he said, I just wanted to add to that. He talked about growing up there and the years that he was there, and that was basically because my mother believed in my education and me continuing school. And it was real hard for Sean when we were in Texas and I was getting my doctorate. It was very hard for him to spend the summers in Texas with me studying all the time anyway. And so,
And it was 110.
and it was 110 with humidity. And so anyway, I would send him up for the summers. So all the things that he was talking about where he was with Mom, and she taught him how to drive, because in the summer, you teach them how to drive in the summer when they're not in school. So I so appreciate the fact that others would say to me, Uncle Bob, say, "What are you still doing in school? You're a professional student." And Mom just said, "You're doing what you need to do, and I'll take Sean in the summer." So she took him for 6 summers when I was in Texas.
It was a Datsun 210 stick around Friday Harbor, San Juan Islands. I don't envy them at all, knowing how to drive up there. I'm sorry for everything I did up there. 16 on an island with a stick shift is your first like go around. Yeah. Oh.
I'm Marilyn Clark, and Barbara was one of those special ladies in my life. Connie is one of my best friends, but Barbara came all the way to Yakima to each one of my kids' weddings. She knew the meaning of words like integrity and loyalty and love. And she didn't just enjoy life and have joy within her, which she definitely did, but she brought joy to everyone she met, and I'm going to miss her.
Thanks, Marilyn.
I'm not really eloquent with my words, but one little thing I want to say is my special thing with Auntie Barbara was Mrs. Giggle Belly Comes for Tea. It was a book that we would read together every single time I went to her house, and she gave me that book about 3 years ago, and so I will cherish that forever. But I mean, everyone knows going to Auntie Barbara's house, going down that drive, there's just something magical about it, and I'm going to miss that feeling, just like arriving at that house, because you know that you're going to be greeted with like the most love in the world, you know? Anyways, I'm going to stop.
Oh, great, I have to follow her. I said, you go first. Auntie was a second mom to me, and I wasn't going to say anything because I have so much in my heart to say, but this came to mind. It's kind of funny. I was 12 years old, and on my birthday, she had a present for me, and I opened it up, and she goes, "Donnie, this is a love novel." She goes, "Have you ever read a love novel?" And I was like, "No, I haven't." And she goes, "Has your mom talked to you about the birds and the bees yet?" And so, I mean, she truly was my second mom. And all I can say about Auntie is, and you've all touched on this, everything about her was love and light. She loved everybody. She accepted everybody for right where they're at. Didn't matter where you are, what you were going through. She was just full of love and light. And I think that just sums up who she was.
Thanks, Dawn and Ashley. Birds and the bees, that's funny that you brought that up because something came to mind when we lived down in Tacoma Road, and you were probably about 10, Dawn, at that time. Doug and I were a little bit older, and Dad was talking to us in the backyard about getting started in that process. And there you were around the corner listening. Dad said, "We'll have to do this later." She probably did, because of Auntie Barbara's books. Anybody else? Well, go ahead and share right now.
I don't know where you are, any of you are in your lives, but I knew my sister, knew her well. This is my church. I'm a Christian, and I never bugged Auntie Barbara about anything what she believed. She was so special. I didn't want to bug her about anything, and she didn't bug me about anything. But lately, there was a couple of our family that wanted to talk to Auntie Barbara about some things. One of them was my dear daughter, Dawn. And she told Auntie Barbara, I know because I believe what I believe that I'm going to heaven. And I don't want to be there without you. And Auntie Barbara talked to her about it. But then the day before she passed away, little Brittany, how many know Brittany? Some don't know Brittany, but you've heard of her. Brittany couldn't make it. She just got a new job. She had to stay in Tennessee. But she wanted to be here so bad. But she told me just the day that Auntie Barbara passed away, that Auntie Barbara called her in that morning before that and said, Brittany, You don't have to worry about me at all. I talked to Christ all night long last night, and I've accepted him. That's all I got to say about it. That's between her and God, the same as your relationship and mine is between me and God. I had to share that with you. Thank you. Brittany, I think, would like me to do that. Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, I think it would be a good time to have Jaron come up and close the service, and then we'll all meet down the hallway to the left as you exit.
I'm going to try and do this without crying, but it may not work. We're going to close with prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the love you gave me and Nana, for the grace and peace that you brought to our lives. You know she's missed, but the joy that she brought will live on. Thank you for love and for all the family she's given us, for the life and the joy that we have in meeting Nana. Amen. Love and hugs.